Coming up on Mountain News this morning, folks continue to repair their lives and figure out what's next after the damage left behind in eastern Kentucky.
Dedicated to eastern and southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning. My name's Amelia Lee here with you on this Thursday, March 6th, and the time is now 5:30, which means it is time to check on in with meteorologist Megan Dusmall this morning. And Megan, I know we had a wintry mix earlier today, and you had to scrape off your car this morning. So is that going to be kind of the message for folks today?
Yeah, maybe spend a little bit of extra time this morning scraping your windshield. And I feel like I might not have had to scrape my windshield if I just would have defrosted, but I used my windshield wiper fluid and it kind of froze on my windshield. So don't do that. That's my suggestion. But you'll definitely need to spend more time warming up that car because it's a little chilly outside. Here's a look at those temperatures in the 30s, and we see the upper 20s as you're traveling towards Wise, 27 degrees and 28 in Clintwood, 29 in Jackson. So be prepared for a little colder weather this morning. Maybe pack that winter coat. But as you head into the evening, maybe a lighter coat or a heavier jacket because temperatures are not too bad. They're in the low 40s, which is a little chilly. So you'll definitely need something to cover your arms. Here's a look outside at that live pinpoint Doppler radar. We are still watching that little wintry mix move through. Some places just seeing straight up snow. Maybe a light dusting is what you can expect as you're heading out the door. But for the most part, it's going to be a pretty good day once this clears out, just looking at those partly cloudy skies and those cooler temperatures. Amelia.
Well, it has been nearly 3 weeks since heavy rain and flooding impacted the Commonwealth, and recovery efforts continue to be an ongoing process. Alyssa Williams checked in with a Perry County business owner and emergency management.
By this time, when I opened that door, I knowed what I was going. I dreaded it worse this time, because when I opened the door, I knowed what it was going to be.
Billy Moore is no stranger to overcoming obstacles. I actually checked in with him once before, after his printing shop flooded in 2022.
It's been emotionally draining.
Now, he's back in the same boat. He says he hasn't lost as much equipment as he did in 2022, but this time he fears he may be losing stamina to make it to the other side.
Right now, it's a financial thing more than anything. You start getting into some of this stuff, you know, it's $1,000 here and $1,000 there before you know it, you know. You $10,000, $15,000 before you know it, and I ain't got it no more. Financially, I don't know if we're gonna be able to open back up. I mean, it's tough.
But Moore's situation is not unique across Perry County. Perry County Emergency Management Director Jerry Stacy says numerous businesses are facing the same harsh reality, but Stacy says he still has a lot of hope. People will find a way.
And it's simply because of one thing, our people. They are tough, they're resilient. No matter how many times they get knocked down, they get up and they have each other's back and they fight every day to overcome whatever's in front of them.
Eastern Kentucky people are pretty tough. We fight. I feel like we've been a benefit to the community. You know, you like to think you are anyway. But now, if we don't, hope people miss us. And if we do, thank you.
In Perry County, Alyssa Williams, WKYT.
Stacy says if impacted business owners have not done so already, they can contact FEMA or the Small Business Administration to see if they are eligible for help. Well, as schools are starting up again after severe weather, districts are getting creative with how to make up missed days. Pike County School Superintendent Freddie Bowling says the state of Kentucky requires schools to complete 170 school days and 1,062 hours of instruction. As they prepare to go back next week, the superintendent says the school day will look a little different going forward.
We have extended our school day 30 minutes, and we've also taken out spring break. So we're trying to make up that time, get the kids back in the classroom and have some type of normalcy for them.
As some roads are still difficult to navigate for buses to pick up and drop off, Superintendent Bowling says there will be some changes to bus stop locations, and the district will be posting that information for those affected. Lawmakers say they will continue to stand by people impacted by the flood. In an interview with WYMT, Congressman Hal Rogers says the people of Eastern Kentucky are resilient, and he will help them as they take their journey on the road to recovery.
All hands on deck. We'll be working to assure people in the business world that FEMA and the federal assistance, as well as state, will be available to them as rapidly as possible.
FEMA disaster recovery operations in Floyd, Harlan, Knott, Letcher, Martin, and Pike counties will not begin until 10 o'clock today because of the weather expected. Well, churches are doing their part by getting flood victims the supplies that they need. WYMT's McKinley Calandrino spoke with some church volunteers.
The Churches of Christ disaster relief effort has made its way to our region, working with churches in the area to help those affected by the floods. This region has experienced flooding more than once, and lending a hand has become natural to some folks.
And so we just wanted to do our part to help the families here in Letcher County. A lot of those were affected again that were affected in 2022.
Based out of Nashville, the Churches of Christ Disaster Relief works with those affected after a major disaster. Distribution centers with the relief effort are now in Letcher and Leslie counties, ready to supply to those who may need it. Last Wednesday, Hemphill Church in Jackhorn received their first tractor trailer load, including boxes pre-packed with cleaning supplies, non-perishable food items, hygiene products, and more upon request.
Once you arrive at the church, volunteers will make a list of items that you and your family may need. They'll stock it all up on a dolly and they'll bring it out back where you will be waiting in your car, ready to load it up for you.
Based on the answers given to those volunteering is how they determine which boxes to give and the quantity of each box. They have become a saving grace for so many in the community.
Like last week, a lady called and said, "I've run out of food." So when we hear that, we try to make sure we take care of them because they depend on us.
And you are not alone in high waters. They say they will be there as long as the community needs them. In Letcher and Leslie County, McKinley Calandrino, WYMT Mountain News.
More information about the pantry in Leslie County and the Hemphill Church's hours can be found on our website, WYMT.com. More FEMA disaster recovery centers are open this week for those affected by flooding. FEMA representatives at the Floyd County Board of Education site are explaining how to apply for assistance and help connect survivors with resources to help them. Terry Chaffins lives in Martin and had 4 inches of water in his home. He just registered with FEMA and is hoping they will be able to provide financial help.
As I told him up at FEMA, I said, it's really put a struck on me. I mean, it's really hurt my lifestyle. I mean, it destroyed all my tools and stuff like that I can't get back up on my feet right now.
The center at the Floyd County Board of Education is open Monday through Saturday from 7 until 7 and Sundays from 1 until 7. A northeastern Kentucky county is trying to make sure it gets help after last month's flooding. Elliott County Judge Executive Myron Lewis says FEMA workers were there on Tuesday to assess the damage. Lewis says the county already put more than $25,000 into recovery work. More than a dozen eastern Kentucky counties are approved for FEMA aid. Lewis hopes Elliott County will join that list. Kentucky lawmakers passed a House bill that would prohibit diversity, equity, and inclusion in public universities and require them to remove all DEI programs by June 30th. The bill is known as House Bill 4 and is co-sponsored by Representative Jennifer Decker. She says prohibiting DEI programs would save taxpayers money. Opponents say protections need to be in place for historically underrepresented communities and minorities. The bill now goes to the Senate. A tow truck driver's death led others in the industry to call for additional safety measures. Troy Caldwell was killed while working on Interstate 64 in Bath County last year. Fellow tow truck driver Bubba Johnson has helped lead a push for House Bill 115, what they're calling Troy's Law. It seeks to add protections for tow truck drivers, starting with making them more visible to those driving fast on the highways.
Regardless of the results we end up getting, it has made the awareness very much there. People realize the dangers.
Representative Richard White says he has been in touch with tow truck drivers to discuss what they would need in order to feel safe on the road. He says blue lights in particular are typically associated with law enforcement, which he says could give some lawmakers pause on the bill. But he says it's what other tow truck drivers want, and he's supporting their mission. A new House bill would expand training to recognize signs of child abuse. House Bill 194 adds animal control officers to the list of jobs required to be trained on the signs of abuse. Research shows animal abuse is often linked to other kinds of violence. If passed, the training would become a requirement starting next year. Some representatives would like to see that happen even sooner. And one new Kentucky bill would make it easier to vaccinate your pets against rabies. House Bill 527 would allow veterinary technicians to vaccinate dogs, cats, or ferrets against the virus. If passed, vet techs would be able to administer vaccines under direct supervision of a veterinarian in the clinic. If passed in the committee, and now heads to the full House. Folks in 13 eastern Kentucky counties can now apply for disaster SNAP benefits. People in Breathitt, Clay, Estill, Floyd, Harlan, Johnson, Knott, Lee, Letcher, Martin, Owsley, Perry, and Pike counties are all eligible to apply. Applications will be accepted until March 12th, next Wednesday, with the exception of Sunday. To apply, you can call the Department for Community-Based Services at 1-855-306-8959. When we return, Apple tries to stay ahead of its competitors with its newest announcement.
And precipitation will taper off today, but more rain is in the forecast. I'll tell you when, up next.